Hey Jenna, how are you doing? This is Kiko.
Hi, Chico. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, I've been listening to some of your music over the past couple of days. I'm really enjoying the style that you're singing in. I really like the song San Diego. I'm in Texas. So I was like, oh, she should have turned it to San Antonio. But other than that, it was pretty great, pretty great song. Tell me a little bit about your feelings about putting out your first album. It must be pretty exciting to do it in this big way and show your fans that you're capable of a lot of things in this entertainment industry.
Sure. I wanted to make sure that every song in the project had a different emotion tied to it. I wanted to take some of it from my acting where I think the words film, music speaks. And in that sense, I wanted every song to kind of have a different emotion so that when people listen to the album, there wasn't all similar emotions. I wanted to make sure that if somebody was feeling sad, or if someone was feeling happy, or sassy, or a little bit spiteful, or a little bit messy, that there were different things that people could relate to, so that in any emotion that there was something on the album for them. And so that was my biggest goal. With the project, which I feel like I accomplished. I'm very grateful for that. But with the title itself, Where Did That Girl Go? It really reflects how I'm at a point in my life where I'm kind of going from girlhood to adulthood, and people are throwing the word around woman, and that really terrifies me because I still feel like a girl, and I don't really feel like an adult yet. And everybody who's an adult wants to be a kid, and everybody who's a kid wants to be an adult. And so, in that sense, it's kind of an ode to where did that girl go? I'm already here, and I'm already up, and each of the songs on the album kind of tell different stories, cater to these different emotions I was mentioning before. But it's kind of a coming of age type of moment for me where I think everybody experiences that as you grow up, you're like, wow, I want to go back to when my mom woke me up and gave me, homemade little pizzas and chicken dinos. I miss those days. Now I have to go buy my own lunch and spend $30 on a pizza and a salad, It's very interesting, growing up and experiencing adulthood, and it's like where did all the time go? Life moves awfully fast. So that's kind of pretty much what the project is in a nutshell, as Megan would say.
Yeah, exactly. And Jenna, just let me know it gets a lot worse. I'm turning 45 next week, and I can remember when I was 21, and life is going to go way faster than you think. So
everyone keeps telling me that, and I'm like, oh no.
You're like, wait, I have to pay taxes every year? What's going on? I don't understand this.
I know. I'm like,
So what was interesting to me too about the album is just how seamless it works between kind of like a pop influence, and then also I heard a lot of country in there too. Can you talk to me a little bit about melding those two sounds, and was that your intention? And then also, I remember last time I talked to you for the first movie, you talked a little bit about how your grandmother had a story about how you were related to Gene Autry. Do you have any more insight into that at all?
Sure, absolutely. So when it comes to country music, it was something that I was introduced to very young, obviously through relatives, yes, but also through just my family. I was always introduced to the songwriting and storytelling of country music very young, because also it was very clean and innocent and sweet. And so that's what my family introduced me to very young, of just stories and songs and lyricism, and growing up around that. So I've always loved country music so much for that. And I think also because of my acting background, stories, and having a song have a middle, start, middle, finish with something that wraps up a story or a message, that country music just does so well, in my opinion, better than any other genre. It just makes it so heartfelt and sweet, and always tells a story. And so that's why I love country music so much, and that's what I wanted to make sure I did with my own music, is tell a story. And so that's what I really wanted to do. But also, as you mentioned, with the pop influence, I wanted to keep it modern. I think a lot of our generation and a lot of the world now loves this, pop sounding, modern, kind of funky little things that maybe you wouldn't hear typically in some country songs. And so I kind of wanted to blend the two to, yes, have the best of, I guess, as Miley Cyrus would phrase it, the best of both worlds in that sense. And having that fun lyricism that, if somebody can read the lyric top to bottom, they can understand that there's a story behind it and a message behind it, but also it's enjoyable enough musically that you don't even have to know there is a story behind it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then Gene Autry, is it a known fact, or is it still one of those family, I guess, family legends?
No, it actually is a known fact. My grandma's her maiden name was Autry itself, and it's proven that she's related to him. They met when she was younger, so it's hardcore proof. It's not Ancestry.com. I guess conspiracy. So far, it's, as far as I know, it's from my grandma, which she's pretty accurate as it gets. It is a true statement. So
well, that's awesome.
It is very fun, and I enjoy that. And I went to his museum out in Los Angeles, so that was fun. That was fun to see as well.
To realize that it is in your blood somewhere, definitely. That's awesome.
Yes.
So here in Texas, of course, we're really big on country music. So what would you tell like your Texas fans, and then the the people that don't know you yet as a singer? Like, what would you want them to know about you in that regard with your new album? Like, what would you like them to know about what you're trying to say about your life? I know you're talking a little bit more about growing into womanhood, but tell me a little bit about that. What would you like them to know?
Yeah, I mean, every song really truly comes from the heart and is very real to my life. There's a lot of situations. In particular, I have a song called Actor that actually discusses the first M3GAN premiere and kind of ties in the second as well, and how I was going through a breakup during my first M3GAN premiere, and nobody knew because I didn't. That was not something I wanted to vocalize to the press at the time. And so, kind of covering that up of going through your first big breakup and trying to do that while also celebrating such a victorious moment in movie was a difficult time. So that's just an example of one of the songs on there. That's the only ballad that I have on the project. Everything else is very, very light. They're pretty lighthearted and enjoyable, but it was very hard for me to write a ballad for a really long time because I'm not a sad human. I'm a very happy human for the most part. So it's most of the songs on there, I would say, are witty, sassy, fun. Some are a little spiteful, a little messy, a little complicated. But I think if you read the lyrics top to down, there's a lot of stories there. I have my first love song on there, which was also another thing that I hadn't done before. I was the first love song that I had written that I was comfortable releasing because it felt so real and authentic and true. And I think that's kind of a scary thing. Because a lot of people say, well, what if the love song doesn't work out how the love song works out? You have to perform that for the rest of your life. And it's like, well, all these songs on this project are beautiful encompassing moments, and I'm really proud of it. As I mentioned, this kind of coming of age time, it's this time where you're learning so much. I think as humans, we're always learning and evolving and trying to figure out who we are and what we want to say. And so this is what little 21-year-old Jenna wants to say right now, and the stories and what I've experienced so far. And I'm really excited because it's my first album, and I think I'm just looking for, I guess, just maybe feedback from fans, and also what do they like, what do they not like, what's their favorite song on the project. I think as my first album, I want to communicate with the people that listen. I think that's the most important thing for me, is to understand what they love or what they don't like or what their favorite, whether how they can relate to it, because I think there's so many stories where you can find a song and it can be relatable to you, even if the story is not exactly the same as yours. You can still find emotions within that. One of my favorite sayings is, when words fail, music speaks. And so I hope that this album speaks for everybody who listens to it.
Definitely. So you got to sing in the first M3GAN movie, and again in the sequel. I got to see the movie already a couple of days ago. So although in the sequel, I have to say it's a lot more awkward of a song, just because of the interaction you have with the Gemma character. As a singer yourself, do you enjoy when both of those creative outlets connect like that?
Absolutely. That's my favorite thing to do, is combining the things that I love most. So it's so fun. I was very excited that M3GAN got to sing a little bit more in this film. Like, the duration was a bit longer and she can kind of have her little breakout singing moment.
Right.
But it was very fun because in this film, I would say her voice has improved, and that was purposely because as AIs evolve, M3GAN also evolved, and it was fun to be able to show more of my vocal talent versus singing like Sesame Street, because the first film they wanted a more Sesame Street sound,
right.
and for this film I got to play around a little bit more vocally and make her sound a little bit better because she has advanced in many departments. So that was very fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, were there any changes you made to M3GAN's voice specifically going into the sequel? Like, I'm not sure how AI robot would mature after 2 years, but you just pretty much explained that. It would.
Sure. I mean, I obviously wanted to keep what people loved about her sass, her spunk, her campiness. But I do think there's a lot more layers to her in this film. A lot of emotions that we didn't hit in the first film. And that was also tricky because robots are not, known for having emotions, but she was programmed to protect Katie, and that protection is empathy and emotion and love for Katie. So it's been interesting to kind of play with that divide of how a robot can feel things, and I think that was kind of the beauty and sentimental elements of the film, and it's where she kind of see how much she really does adore Katie, but also how much she does really, really care for Jenna as well, even though it's in a weird, twisted musical breakout way.
Right. Was it me, or was M3GAN a lot more sarcastic this time around, especially with Gemma? I mean, how fun are those scenes to record when you're just getting sassier and sassier with her?
Yeah, she definitely was more sarcastic. I think because people enjoyed so much of her campiness in the first film, I think we just ran with the camp and ran with the sarcasm and the fun. So yeah, you definitely caught on right. She was definitely more sarcastic in this one.
What was your first reactions to the script when you realized that the sequel is going to be a lot more action oriented than the first movie? Were you excited about that?
I was excited. It intrigued me because it wasn't what I was expecting the sequel to be. I didn't really have too much expectations of what it was going to be. I was just kind of shocked that the way that the genre went, they kind of pivoted more action based. And so with that, I was very intrigued to see how that would develop and how also that would affect M3GAN's character. But it was really fun to kind of do not a 360 with it, but to kind of see M3GAN in a different new light, almost a heroic element. That was really fun. But yeah, it was definitely not it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. I think it's interesting to see, like, a lot of people who have watched the film, it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is new, this is different, this was unexpected. But I think there's a beauty in kind of seeing the different creative sides and also kind of shocking audiences to maybe see something that they didn't expect. I think that's the best thing, though, as a creative, is throwing something out there that people couldn't see coming.
What was it like seeing your voice coming out of that Moxie doll, which, by the way, was a perfect example of dated technology, but not something I ever remember hitting the market. But now I know it did, because I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, this did exist. That was pretty interesting.
It was really fun. I really liked the Moxie doll. I remember when we were recording pretty early on, they showed me the Moxie doll and what that was going to look like, and I had a great time with that, because I think in each character that M3GAN kind of jumped into, well, not each character, each body that she jumped into in this film, I kind of wanted to make not adjustments, but almost how each body would affect her differently, and so it would keep audiences intrigued. How she is in the Moxie, how she is in Gemma's head. There's so many different elements and layers of M3GAN in this film that I got to play with, and that was really fun.
Yeah, I'm a child of the 80s, so when that came out, I was like, oh, they should have used a Teddy Ruxpin. I don't even know if you know what that is. It's going to date me, but it was a teddy bear.
Oh, no, I need to look that up.
Yeah, look that up. It's a teddy bear. You would put a cassette tape in it, and it would teach kids things, and that would have been a kind of a weird way to get M3GAN going to speak through this teddy bear doll that came out in the 80s. So yeah, definitely. Well, just a couple more questions. Are you yourself 100% all in with AI and tech, and how, all of these things have become so critical in our everyday lives? I mean, when my phone tells me at the end of the day, at the end of the week, that I spent more than 12 hours on it, I always wonder, like, oh, is that healthy? Should I be doing that?
I think like everything in life, there's pros and cons. I think it's interesting. I think M3GAN does a great job in the second film of kind of showing how, is there a way to collaborate with AI versus allow it to take over? I think just like anything, there's pros and cons. I mean, I do think as an artist and creative myself, I think as humans, people, writers and artists and everyone, we're given these talents and gifts, and I don't necessarily want AI to replace the creative beauty that humans possess so naturally, because it's so imperfectly perfect. But I do think AI can definitely, I think speed things up in some regard and help people get things done faster. I know personally, I'm like, hey, I wouldn't mind having a little thing help me wash the toilets or clean the room or do anything. My mom's like, oh, Jenna, you're going to need help with that when you're older, because I won't be able to help you. So I'm like, well, maybe I wouldn't mind a little something doing that for me. But, I think there's such a beauty in human interaction. And I don't know. I think there's just so many pros and cons with it that it's hard to decipher how exactly I feel, because I think everything's just evolving
so quickly. Yeah, very, very quickly. Yeah. How often do you get back to Texas?
I come back a couple times a year. My family, all of my dad's side of the family lives in Lubbock, Texas.
Right.
And so I go back a couple of times a year to obviously go see my family and have some delicious chips and queso. I stand that Texas has some really incredible food, and I wish Torchy's tacos and chips and queso were as good everywhere else in the world as there are in Texas, or some good Tex-Mex. Oh, I love it. But I get my fill whenever I go back. I indulge on too much Texas food whenever I'm there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jenna. I really appreciate you taking the time again, and congratulations on M3GAN and your debut album, and we will talk again.
Yeah, thank you so much for chatting. We'll talk again soon.
Right,
have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.